Okay, you've probably noticed it. The tech industry is on an AI spending spree that is just unlike anything we have ever seen before. But underneath all of that frantic investment, a really fascinating and maybe even a little dangerous question is starting to bubble to the surface. We're talking about more than $1 trillion in planned spending on AI infrastructure. Let that sink in. Trillion with a T. It is an absolutely mind-boggling amount of money, and it's all riding on one single critical assumption that the demand for AI is not just real, but that it's absolutely exploding. But what if that's not true? What if that core assumption is just wrong? What if the numbers that everyone is betting their future on are inflated, or artificial, or just plain unsustainable? And that's the big, kind of scary mystery we're going to dig into today. So, welcome to the AI gold rush. I mean, everyone from the chipmakers to the cloud providers, probably even your own company, is rushing to stake a claim, spending billions and billions to build out the future. But here's the thing. Not everyone is convinced they're even reading the right map. And look, this isn't some random critic on the sidelines saying this. This is the CEO of Anthropic, one of the biggest AI labs in the world, basically suggesting that his own competitors are making these massive bets without really understanding the risks. I mean, wow, that's a pretty startling thing to hear, and it really sets the stage for everything we're about to uncover. All right, so where do we even begin to unravel this? Well, the first clue in this whole mystery, it lies in something that sounds simple but is actually super complex: the real cost of using AI. You see, the currency of the entire AI world is the token. Think of it like a tiny unit of processing power. Every single thing you do, every question you ask, every line of code it generates for you, every summary it writes, it all costs a certain number of tokens. It's like a meter that is always running in the background. And the difference in cost between tasks can be just massive. You know, a simple question to a chatbot, that's cheap. It's like ordering a single car ride. But then you have the next generation of AI, these autonomous agents that can work in the background for hours on your behalf. Well, that's like sending that car out to run errands all day with your credit card on file. They can burn through millions of tokens, and you might not even realize it's happening until you get the bill. And listen, this is not some theoretical what-if scenario. This is real. Just look at Uber. Their CTO admitted that by April of this year, not even halfway through the year, their engineers had already burned through the company's entire annual budget for AI coding tools. And you gotta believe, if it's happening at Uber, it's happening everywhere. So all this runaway spending has created this really weird and kind of backwards situation inside these big tech companies, a new behavior that people are starting to call token maxing. I mean, just get a load of this quote from Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang. He's basically saying that a top engineer should be consuming a huge amount of AI. The incentive here is being built around consumption itself, not necessarily around efficient, productive work. And that's really the heart of the issue. Token maxing is what happens when using a lot of AI becomes the goal. Suddenly, the metric for success isn't just, did you build something cool and useful? It's how much money did you spend on AI while doing it? And believe me, this is happening as we speak. You've got companies like Meta and Shopify putting up leaderboards for employees based on who's using the most AI. They're dangling token budgets as a perk to recruit engineers. AI usage is literally becoming a factor in performance reviews. And of course, when you start tracking usage instead of actual output, people are going to find a way to game the system. You know, the CEO of Databricks, a company that sees AI workloads from thousands of businesses, he puts it pretty bluntly. He says if your only goal is to burn a lot of money, well, there are plenty of easy ways to do that. And right now, it kind of seems like that's exactly what's happening, creating this demand signal that might be, at least in part, totally artificial. Okay, so in the middle of this whole gold rush, this frenzy, there's one major player that's hitting the brakes and making a totally different bet. Let's take a look at Anthropic and how they're trying to bring a dose of reality back into the market. And it all boils down to the business model, right? For a while, AI has been sold like a streaming service, a flat monthly fee for unlimited use. And of course, that encourages you to use as much as possible without ever thinking about the cost. Anthropic is betting on the exact opposite. They're moving to a model where you're billed for every single token, forcing everyone to think about the real cost and the real value of what they're doing. And they are not just talking the talk, they are really putting their money where their mouth is. They've already started cutting off access for third-party tools that were burning through their unlimited plans. They're moving their biggest enterprise customers over to a pay-as-you-go model. They are making a huge bet that real, sustainable demand is way more valuable than these inflated, kind of performative numbers.
And if you're wondering why they do this, well, here's the jaw-dropping number. According to one estimate, a single user on an unlimited plan that might cost them a couple $100 could actually be burning through anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 in raw computing costs every single month. That math just doesn't work. It's completely unsustainable at a large scale.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. What does all of this actually mean? Well, this whole mess, this confusion over cost and value, it connects right back to that trillion-dollar figure we started with. It's created a huge blind spot for the entire industry. This quote from Ramp, a company that literally tracks corporate spending, just nails it. AI is one of the fastest growing expenses for companies, and it's also the one they understand the least. They're calling this a trillion-dollar blind spot, and for good reason. Anthropic CEO has a great name for this. He calls it the cone of uncertainty. See, here's the thing. It takes, 1 or 2 years to build out a massive new data center? So these companies have to make billion-dollar bets today on what the demand is going to look like 2 years from now. And if you guess wrong, if you build way too much capacity for a demand that was never real to begin with, the consequences could be absolutely catastrophic. So who's caught in this cone of uncertainty? Who's making these massive bets? Basically, everyone. You've got Nvidia selling hundreds of billions of dollars worth of chips. You've got data center companies building insane amounts of new capacity. And you've got all of big tech pouring their fortunes into this infrastructure. Their entire strategy is based on the assumption that this demand signal is legit. So that leaves us right back where we started, with this one giant trillion-dollar question. If a big chunk of today's AI demand is really just an illusion, just employees trying to climb a leaderboard or companies burning through budgets they can't sustain, what happens when the bills finally come due? The entire industry is betting $1 trillion that the demand is real. The question is, what happens if they're wrong?